Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm 9 years sober. I continue every day to look to help others, to give back to those who have helped me, and to the community that's given me everything back into my life.
I'm Heather Champion. I'm a licensed mental health counselor with a private practice. I met Ben while working at an outpatient treatment center called The Retreat that's not here anymore. We've maintained our friendship since then and enjoy taking time to talk about therapy and our lives as champions.
Disclaimer: the content of this video is intended for informational use only. It is in no way intended as a replacement for medical or psychological advice. Should you have a medical or psychological issue, please consult with a medical professional.
We got 3 more hours.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Real Champions Podcast. My name is Heather Champion.
I'm Benjamin Champion.
And I know it's the season 2. I've lost track of which episode we're on right now, but Ben and I were just chatting before we kind of turned on the recorder about a couple of things. Today is 420, not a very popular day for myself or for Mr. Ben because of our chosen rather professions. But also we were talking a little bit about going to church and how we were both raised in religious households. We were both raised going to church, but it's not really something we do anymore. So Ben, why don't you pick up where we were just talking about?
Alrighty. So recently in my life, if you guys have been with us, it's been an up and down adventure through relationships and figuring out what's next in life. And one thing that I've learned through AA and just through life is, church is a good space to go for community. I've always related church to community. I've tried to separate what happens in church versus a community, because it allowed it to stay a safe spot for me throughout my ever-changing life. And recently, in the last 2 weeks or so, I've really made a big effort with my friends to, start researching churches in my area and just go. And coincidentally, I have been in therapy for quite some time now. And my original therapist, who I worked with when I came down to treatment here, one of her biggest things we worked on was when I was early in sobriety, was one, stop being an asshole to people, love myself, and two, to get out more and go take on new adventures and things I'm uncomfortable with. Well, lo and behold, 2 Thursdays ago, I get a text from that same therapist inviting me out to go to church on Sunday. So 2 Sundays ago, we go, and it was a great time. It was what I realized for myself. It was nice being out in the community. As much as I want to say I'm a homebody, reality is once I get out there and I'm with people that I trust and know, I enjoy those things. I really do. You'll never hear that from me directly before I go out because for some reason I have this idea that I don't like people as much as I do. And that's something I know I need to work on. It's something I put a shield up, I guess, to set expectations for myself. So we went through with church. All last week, I had just a positive feeling, something new, something exciting to look forward to this weekend. So this weekend, I went to church with one of my coworkers who used to work under me, and she's for years been pushing me to go to church, pushing me in positive ways. She is a woman that I can rely on just when I'm in a bad spot. So I called her Monday, and you should have heard the scream of joy and excitement that came out of this woman when I told her we're going to church. And it's one of those that you can't beat. And it was a reminder on Monday night when I made that call is holy hell, I'm surrounded by really awesome people. Like this lady just let out a scream like I just told her I had 100 years sobriety. So it just reminded me I'm surrounded by really good people. And we went to church on Sunday. It reminded me of my hometown, so I was in my comfort zone. There was no offer donation basket that went around. I just noticed that. And it was just it was very nice for somebody like myself who's very, I went into the rooms of AA. I'm not a social person at all. I'm very routine where I sit. I sit in the same spot so you know where I'm going to be. I don't have to approach you. And it was very nice going with somebody who could speak for me in a sense. Denise knows me as well as Miss Heather does, as you know my quirks, you know that I'm not really shy, I just present shy. And it was nice going with somebody who could just tell others who I was without me having to do the uncomfortableness and just went right into where I felt comfortable. So I noticed that. And what I really notice is when everybody, I was telling you before we turned this on, when everyone puts their hands up and starts singing and praying, I never got it. I never fully understood it because I'm not an excitable person like that. It's very takes a lot for me to get that excited. And what I realized as I was watching these things happening is it's the same advice I give to my clients when going into AA. Is you might not understand what the heck's going on in there, but what you can understand is people are getting better in that. And in live time while watching and doing this standing up, sitting down, singing stuff, I
Hmm.
was able to do a lot of self-reflection and realize, oh, maybe I need to listen to my own advice in this setting. Maybe I just need to sit back and watch because I know Denise is a happy woman. I know she truly believes in what she believes in. And so while standing next to her and just watching her with her hands out, smiling, singing out loud, it just it made me really realize that it was me putting on this perspective of this place. When reality is I just need to go with the right people into these places. So I saw the version of what I'm chasing after through those people. So it was a really eye-opening experience, something that honestly I'm really excited to go to next week. I dressed up, got up early on Sunday morning. It was a great start to Sunday morning. Um, so those little things that my dad would always tell me as a kid, we're up early, we get the day started early. Those little things that I clamped onto as a kid were true when I left church. It was an early Sunday. I went to the grocery. Like I did everything that my dad did,
Hmm.
just 20 years difference. It was just kind of one of those just interesting. Oh, maybe it's my perception walking into here that's shielding me from what everybody's finding joy out of.
Hmm. It's funny, like when you were saying that, like your friend got so excited about you. I love to go paddleboarding and I live up here. It's called the Nature Coast part of Florida. And I haven't been gone in a while. And I kept like setting it in my head, like I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. I love doing it. And I like doing it on Sunday mornings. And so I mentioned it to the woman who has the space next door to me here in this building. She's a massage therapist and her name is Deb. And when I got up, yes, we had made a plan to go. And when I got up yesterday, I was like, I don't know if I really want to go. So I texted because it was really overcast. And I'm like, yeah, I'd much rather just sit on the couch and veg out today. But I texted her, I'm like, hey, tide's going out like at this time, and it'll start coming back in at this time. That would probably be the best time to go because we can catch the tide in and out. Let me know what works for you. And she like gets back to me 20 minutes later, like 10 o'clock works good for me. And I'm like, okay. I'm gonna be at Deb's house at 10. But she was so over the top excited. Then I get to her house, and I back my SUV up so that I could put like she was gonna take her kayak, her dad's kayak, and a normal size one person kayak it can fit in my SUV, no problem. Put down the seats, we're good. Well, this one it looked like a two-person ocean kayak.
Wow.
So it's twice the size of a normal kayak. So we put it in, we had it all the way in between the two front seats. It would not fit. And I thought, oh, I'll get out of it now because Deb will decide that, oh, it won't fit. We really can't make it work. I'm like, we could put it on top of the truck, but my thing is like, how we're going to get it down and then put back up there again because her son's like 6.5 feet tall and he was helping us, but we won't have her son there because he doesn't want to come with us. So I'm like, well, that's not going to work. And we're both, she's shorter than I am. So, and I'm 5'2" with shoes on. So it's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. But in any event, like we finally, she's like, I'll rent one when we get there. And I'm like, are you sure you want Yes, I'm going to rent. I'm like, okay. So we get all the way over there and I'm like getting everything together. I have an inflatable paddleboard and I get my paddleboard together and she gets herself on the water. I'm like, you okay? And she's like, yep, yep, yep. She got in her group. She had the best time. And we went over to Three Sisters Springs. We probably got there around 11:30 in the morning. This is all church time, right? This is normal church time. And if you've ever been into Three Sisters Springs, it's like all the trees kind of come up. And the way that it's set up, it almost feels like a chapel. The way that the trees kind of come up and they kind of meet in the middle, but not really. And the sun comes down, and it's three different spots that are connected. There's three springs. That's why they call it Three Sister Springs. And it's funny, it's just because she was so excited to come with me to something that, like, to me is, this is just something I do for fun here and there. It's quick. It's like we were gone for like an hour and a half. It was like an hour paddle there, an hour paddle back, and we hung out for like a half an hour and like just took in nature sitting there in the spring. Normally in the cooler weather, the springs are always 72 degrees. So in the cooler weather, you'll find manatees hanging out in there, a lot of them in those springs,
Hmm.
because the rest of the water, like outside of the springs, is a lot cooler. But in the spring, it's a constant 72 degrees. So in this time of year when it's like 85 degrees outside, that 72 feeling kind of chilly. So I don't really like to swim in the springs this time of year because it feels kind of cold. Everybody's like, "Hey, what are you doing? It's crazy." But it's funny because like I grew up in the church, like my mom raised me in an ELCA church, that's the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. It's very different than the Missouri Synod. I could explain what the differences are, but I don't feel like it right now. And I was there. My mom took me to church, put me in the nursery starting from as soon as I was old enough to go. And then I went to Sunday school for many years. And then after that, I did confirmation classes for 2 years. And then after that, then I had to attend regular services. In addition to that, I was also in all the youth groups. For all the different ages. And so all the youth group we did our things. And I was an acolyte and I did my service work at the church. And, it was just such a huge part of my life when I was growing up. When I finally got old enough and had enough cash to move out of the house, I never went back. It's not that it's not that I didn't get educated enough in it. It's not, the whole thing. It's just that I wanted to take a break, and I've taken a almost 25-year break at this point from it. But you're talking about like doing the whole hands up and this sort of a thing. So I'm Lutheran. I was raised in a Lutheran church. You know what you do in a Lutheran church? You sit.
Hmm.
And then you sing when you're supposed to sing. You stand up when you're supposed to stand up. You sit down when you're supposed to stand up. Sit down. Sometimes you kneel, but not a lot. But that's it. You just stand up, you sit down. Sometimes you sing, you recite things. That's it. That's what church is. To me, that's what it feels like. Church is normal. When I
Mhm.
still lived on Long Island, I had a friend who was Baptist. I didn't realize she was Baptist. I just knew she was my friend. And she was African American. She still is. She's still living. And I remember the first time, like, she was redoing the inside of her house and she asked for help painting. And I was like, I'll come and help paint. And she's like, Are you sure? And I'm like, Yeah, sure. She says, I live in North Amityville. And I was like, Okay, whatever. I'll still come. So I drove to her house and I pulled into the neighborhood, and I'm like following my directions, and people are looking at me like, What is this girl doing here? What's this white girl doing in this neighborhood? Did not realize that this is not a white neighborhood. This is an African American neighborhood. In those days, I never like saw differences between people, so I was like, okay. So when she invited me to the church, obviously I didn't realize that it was going to be an African American church. So I show up to the church. She says it's her son's christening. I went to her baby shower. I was the only white person at the baby shower. Didn't th I was like, I remember sitting there going, "Hey, I'm the only white person here. Well, that's neat. That's different." So up to the church for her baby shower, and sure enough, I'm the only white person there as well. And it was, a Southern Baptist church. So they had a band in the front, which I'd never seen before in a church. They got up and they were swaying and singing, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? And then eventually, when they brought the baby up to christen him, because in Baptist churches you don't actually get baptized until you're ready to be accepted in, for like it's the same thing as like confirmation for me. For them, that's what the baptism is. I'm not used to that. So for the christening, it's just putting of the oil and the sign of the cross on the forehead. So they took me up with him because I'd never been to the church before, and everybody put their hands on me and were praying for me and the baby. It was a very unique experience. It was something I'll never forget. I don't get it. But it's how they express themselves, right? Like for me, like to go to church, like going to a Catholic service is kind of okay, but it's not quite what I'm used to. I can't say that I'm looking for anything because it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I think that if I ever decided that I wanted to go back to church, I'd go back to an ELCA church. I actually know where there's two of them near here, just in case my mother comes to visit and she wants to go to church. But yeah, so I didn't go to church yesterday. I went to nature church. I didn't go to like
And that's
religious church. I went to nature church. And my friend was so excited to come and do that. And I was really happy for her that she had a great day. And we got back early and I say, now you have the rest of the day to do stuff. And she's like, yes, I can do more stuff today. I'm wondering how sore she is because she was paddling pretty good, with that. We didn't take any pictures because God help me if I took a picture of myself in a bathing suit. That's not gonna happen. Um, but in any event, like I think that exploring and finding our place is important, with everything, that I kind of just ran through really quickly with going paddleboarding with my friend and kind of helping her to figure out what for her is a place where she can find community. And she's like, maybe we can get a little group together of people that want to go with us paddling. And I'm like, I love to paddle. Like I would go paddling every weekend if it was up to me. It's just that, I don't know the waterway so great around here. I'm not from around here. There's tons of springs that we can paddle to. It's just a matter of figuring out where you can leave from, where you launch from, and like how long the paddle's going to be, how rough the water is when you're doing it. But like, I know that that's something that I love, and I've been doing it a long time since I moved to Florida. I've been paddling. But for her, it's something new. She's figuring it out for herself. She's trying to figure out who she is because her son's growing up and she's got to kind of figure out who she's going to be without him at her side because eventually he's going to move on with his life. And I know that, I've been to the Baptist church, like you were talking where they, do this and they have the rock band in the front and the music's really loud. And I went, yeah, no, not for me, not for me. Rock music is for a rock concert. Like when I go see the Foo Fighters, I do not mind a rock band. But when I go to sit down in a church, no, this is sacred space, piano and organ. That's it. Thank you very much. Um, and I would probably go back to a place where the hymnals are the same as the ones I grew up holding, where I'm singing the
this
same songs and I'm reciting the same liturgy that we used to recite back in those days.
this was completely different for me.
Yeah.
Everything that I remembered about church, the ones I went to. I
Mhm.
remember as a I don't know, mid-teenager, I had a friend who was huge. His family still is. I think he's a pastor now for a radio station or something. Like he really followed his faith. And we would go to this, youth thing, and I always enjoyed that because it was more upbeat and lively and did better with my ADHD, I think.
Mhm.
And for this first experience, just going right in and just having, wasn't too much scripture. It was somebody that relatable, young guy, and a lot of people that go there who are in recovery. And even at first, that kind of threw me back when Denise was telling me, "Oh, there's a lot of people in recovery." Again, selfishly, I just wanted to kind of be able to just blend in and not be known by anybody. Um, and then lo and behold, no one knew me. It was just kind of one of those where I just had to show up. You know, I just had to show up. I had to get up out of my bed in time. I just had to show up. And I'm so grateful I did. It was a great experience, going on 10 years sobriety coming up and to be back in a church was just a full circle moment.
Mhm.
I'm like you said, I'm trying to figure out who I am now in this new path and journey. And again, do I fully understand the religious side of it? Absolutely not. I am a true believer in just go be a good person every day to the best of your ability, and that's what you're doing. But I think being around other people with those same directions in mind is a nice starting spot for this. So I really do look forward to next week being back there, having a new routine in mind, and being around people and trying to out outgrow myself and my old ideas of what church was.
Yeah. I think that, the one lesson I learned, with all the church that I did, and then afterwards, I did a lot of studying because, like, part of catechism, which is where the catechism is like the book that tells you what the whole religion's about and what we believe. And then doing that in the sect of Christianity that I was raised in, the ELCH sect, we had to know about other religions and what they were talking about so that we can make an educated decision about whether we really wanted to be a member of this religion or not. And so I learned a lot about other religions at that point, and then since then have gone even further and learned a lot about a variety of religions. Learned a lot about Buddhism and Hinduism with my practice in yoga. Learned a lot about Judaism because I've worked with a ton of people of Jewish faith, especially living down here in Florida as a therapist. So it's like I've expanded a lot and I've learned a lot more about other things. And the one thing that kind of sat with me and sits with me always and it makes church kind of a hard thing for me to sit through, kind of like what we were discussing before, is that in the world that I was raised in, being a Christian is embodying the life of Christ. So you want to behave as Christ-like as possible. When we look at like the New Testament and when it talks about what Christ was like, that's what we want to be. We want to try to embody his life. And I think that, we were kind of talking in the beginning, we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to keep it quick. Um, One of the things that could then keep people away from church is that you have all of these people that do not embody the life of Christ, but instead decide that they're going to quote Bible verse and use that to make themselves feel like they're better than others. And I know that that pushes a lot of people away from the church. It's unfortunate that we have that because the community that exists there, and the good feelings that it brings so many people is so much more important than that. And I think that if we all kind of agree that the point of being Christian, the point of being anything, is to embody the best version of ourselves. Because, I like to freak out Christians like the Bible thumpers, out there, just like the big book thumpers in AA. And I
Mhm.
joke around and I say, yeah, Jesus was a great Buddhist.
Earth.
He was.
Yep.
And so all of these, why can't we look at what's the same in all these religions? Like, what's the same? That we need to be good people. We need to be kind to one another. We need to let go of our excesses. We need to give to others. We need to hold others up. We need to hold ourselves accountable.
Simple and easy, just like recovery, just like mental health, just like everything. Be the
Mhm.
best version of you, ask for help, and give help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
That's the truth.
But anyway, we are running low on time, so we'll call it there. Thank you, Ben, and thank you everybody for checking in and everything that we participating in these days. All right, see you
Thank you,
guys next time.
everybody. Have a good week.
Real Champions Podcast, Season 2, Episode 4, Church. What does it mean to be a champion when that's your name? The Real Champions Podcast is co-hosted by Heather Champion and Benjamin Champion. It's edited by Heather Champion. Produced by Maitri Counseling Services, all rights reserved. Questions or comments can be
refer to Heather at Maitri Therapy, MAITRI-therapy.com.
You are not alone. Remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. For local help, dial 211 on your phone to be connected to resources in your area. If you experience mental health or substance abuse issues, please call the National Alliance or Mental Health or NAMNI at 1-800-950-NAMNI. Or in a crisis, text NAMI, NAMI, to 741-741. Check out the NAMI website, nami.org, for additional resources.